I'll walk you through when you first get the kit, just kind of a tutorial on how to assemble. For this example, we're going to be doing this Home Sweet Home, and just the generic overall instructions will work for pretty much any of these designs. We're going to get started. This is just a guide. You don't have to go by it. That's there if you need it. Now, to get started, you're going to notice there are two packages. Don't worry about the second one. I would put it aside to begin with. And what we're going to do is we're going to work on the base. In some of these kits, there are small pieces. You want to make sure that you're not dropping anything. Make sure you have a large enough work area to where you can set everything out appropriately. When you look at your design, we know that this is not going to be part of the base. When I refer to the base, I'm referring to this arch and then the bottom portion here. Everything else in front are the decorative pieces. And the thing with this design is these can actually be changed out with different seasonal items. If you're interested in that, we can check out my website at thecornerstoneworkshop.com, and we will soon be having some extra additional things you can purchase. This is part of the decorative pieces for the house, this as well. So we are going to set these to the side because we're not going to work on that right now. We're going to identify these are our base pieces, these here. Now, this one is going to be the very back. This one's going to go on top of this. When you flip this piece over, you're going to see that it has 3M. This is like your super glue per se. This lets you know this is the back of the piece and not to paint this, because once it's painted, we're going to go and take this element off, and then we're going to line it up and we're going to press it together. And then that's going to be sealed together permanently. I will say on the design, getting our base here lined up is going to be very crucial. You're going to see this is the very bottom piece. All right. One side you're going to see it has what we call a score mark. That is there to help you line up your top pieces so you don't get off center. It's just there as a helpful guide. What I recommend is that you assemble these pieces together first and then paint them. It's a lot easier that way, and you don't have to use as much paint because obviously the whole surface area doesn't need to be painted. And again, that's the very bottom. These two pieces are going to line up together on top. It's very important that you recognize that obviously this is let your shapes line up in essence. And when you do line these up, they need to be perfect, because if they're not, when we go to slide this base into this slot here, it's not going to go, and that you're going to have to do a little shaving out of the channel for this to work. So to do that and to get it lined up correctly, this is what I usually recommend. We are going to start with these two pieces. You're going to line them up. We're going to flip it upside down here. You're going to take your piece and go ahead and what we call dry fit it. And I'm going to pop it on there. Sometimes it takes a little work. So see, I have it dry fitted. That's only one piece. This is going to be the second piece. I'm just dry fitting it just so I can get the hang of it and know where the placement needs to go. Once you have these two pieces dry fit, what I recommend is take off this portion. You can set this down to the side. You're going to take off the very first piece that we placed, the 3M tape. Once it's off, you're going to line it back up again, dry fit it, like so. And again, this 3M tape is going to be taken off. You're going to take your second piece that's identical. You're going to take the face that does not have the 3M tape, and you're going to stick it on. And again, with 3M tape, once you put pressure, it's not going to come back up very easily. You will wind up damaging and breaking your piece, and then your base will essentially be unusable. Now that those pieces are adhered together with the 3M tape, you're going to separate those. Set the top to the side just for a moment. And this is going to be one unit. And then flip it over, take off this 3M tape, and you're going to line it up like so. And again, make sure you have it where you want it, because once you apply pressure, it is very difficult to separate those pieces. All right, and then that portion of your base will be almost complete. Your kit comes with these small pieces here. And again, they have 3M tape on the back of those as well. These go in front of the holes. So the way I have my base oriented, this is going to be the very back, which holds the picket fence, the double door. These 3 small slots are for your accent pieces, which are these that holds your decorative sweet home embellishments. The long one matches up to the sizing of the back piece. So what it does is it aligns just on the front of that, of the hole, which this would be the forward facing and this would be the rear. So it goes on the forward facing part of the hole. Again, it is very important. Do not mount it to where it covers any of that opening, or your back door panels will not fit down into the slots. This is just to help give it a little more stability once it's upright, that it doesn't wobble forward and backwards on you. Now, same thing for these small pieces. Here's the 3M. You remove it, and then you are going to place them in the front of each of those holes. Then once you apply pressure to all of those pieces, that base portion is finished and it will be ready for painting. On to the double door. Again, move this out of the way. This is going to be your very back portion, and then this was going to be the top layer. You're welcome to paint these, and then once they've dried, make sure they are completely dry though before you adhere them together. Otherwise your adhesive won't stick very well. Or you have the option of go ahead, take the 3M tape off, align it, push it down, and then you can paint it once it's aligned. The choice is, it's up to you what you would like to do. But once you're ready to adhere them together, again, just make sure, it's very important, especially at the bottom, that all of your angles line up, because if anything is off, it's not going to fit down in the base slot properly. And that is how you prepare the base, and that's what I would recommend working on first. Once your pieces are adhered together and they're ready for painting, you'll have your solid base here, and then the decorative part fence that goes in the base. Now, when painting, I recommend any kind of acrylic paint works. This is just for an example. I'll show you some techniques and tips that I like to use. I'll set this aside for a moment here. Again, any kind of paint that you choose will work. I just use just the standard acrylic paints. When you're painting, it usually doesn't take a lot. I usually recommend starting out with a quarter size amount. And some of the things that you may choose to use, you can use a fine to a foam brush. And then I recommend as well using, it's like a makeup sponge. Once you have your paint, shake it up here, prime it first, and just pretend that's some of the paint that I need. When painting, thin is better. You don't want to coat it on there very thick because it won't dry very quickly for you. I recommend just dabbing it on, rubbing some of it off, and say that I'm painting this area. Usually all I do is I just take the brush and I just dab it lightly, and that leaves a nice thin coat. Because by the time I finish this and make my way through all of my pieces, by the time I get to the end, if I would like a second coat on anything, everything is usually dry. I could just go ahead and do my second coat, and I'm just efficient with my time. Now, sometimes some of these designs, people like to have a stained look. I know stain can be very messy, so there is a technique that I like to use. Usually, just take a baby wipe, and you're going to take out one baby wipe. I usually like to fold it over to give it a little strength. And I'm just going to use a little of this paint that I have taken out. All right. I put just a small amount on the baby wipe, and I can just apply it in a motion. See, I can leave it like a distressed look, or I can thin it out to where it's super light. I can come and just go back over it, make it a little darker. I can just, there's a lot of different techniques, but this is a way to get a stained look and it not be as messy as normal traditional stain will be. You can play around with different colors that you want for the design that you've chosen. All right, now to move on to the embellishments. Once you have your base, all these base and the back fence pieces painted, I would set those to the side so they're not crowding your work area. And you're going to want to start bringing out these larger design pieces. We're going to locate those. And what I recommend is laying all of your pieces out so you exactly where everything is going to go, kind of like a puzzle, right? So we have this piece here. All right, that one's going to go there. Now you can take your Ziploc bag that has all of your smaller items, and you can see there are some tiny pieces on this design here. So we want to be careful when we open our bag that we are not losing any of those small pieces. And also some of the pieces can be a little fragile by themselves. So just be careful when you're taking those pieces out. And again, we're just going to lay everything out where it's going to go. And it's not its final placement. It's just so we have an idea. One, that we have all of our pieces. And if you need a visual of help you make your color choices. All right. Now, as with the base, this is pretty obvious. These pieces are the front, right? And if you have a hard time of telling which on the circles, those can be hard sometimes too. When you flip them over, again, they have the 3M tape on the back for you instead of you having to worry about super glue. That's going to let you know that that is your back piece. Now, if it's a little hard to tell, and maybe you don't see the green lettering, if you run your finger across it and it's really like a smooth feeling, that lets you know that that's the 3M backing paper. All right, once it's laid out, we know where everything's going to go. You figure out what colors you want. I'm going to show you another little tip that I like to do for some of these smaller pieces, because sometimes it's hard to sit here and paint these small pieces without getting paint everywhere. So I like to take a roll of painter's tape, and I am going to tear me off a small portion here. Now, this is the non-adhesive side, and this is the adhesive side, the sticky side. We're going to fold the ends up just a bit to where we have the sticky side facing up. And the reason I like to do that is I take my small pieces that I'm going to paint, and I just place them on my painter's tape though. All right. And then I can take my applicator, whatever paint that I'm doing, and I can just lightly go over all those pieces and not have to worry about getting my hands all in a mess. And also they're laid out. I can be efficient with my time in painting all of the pieces. And again, I would do light coats. You can go over everything once, and if it's not dark enough or to your liking, or you see something that you want to change, you're welcome to go over it again with a second coat to make it the colors more vibrant. Once everything is completely dry, now you are ready to assemble the pieces. And as stated earlier, all your pieces are going to have 3M on them. When you're ready to place them down, just line them up kind of real gently. And then once they are in their final resting place and you're happy where it's at, just apply pressure at all of the points, and then it will be adhered to the final base piece. On some of the designs, you will see that I have helped you a little as far as just trying to help line up some of the holes. These lines that you see here are just to help guide you and give some accents, I guess you say, to your base pieces here. All right, once everything is painted and everything is glued down, then you're ready to place them in the base. And I'm just going to show you an example here. And again, I apologize, mine is not completed. I was just doing this to try to help you, guide you through this instructional here. Let me change the orientation this way. This is going to be the back fence, and then once these are assembled, then these are going to go in the front 3 slots. And then your DIY project will be complete.